we're going to start in a bit. We're going to talk about Solana DeFi, which is like the long-awaited panel. I'm just going to give you a little intro about myself first. I'm Pepper. I'm leading partnerships at Cast. So Cast is a stablecoin bank and crypto card. And I'm here joined by 4 amazing leaders of Solana DeFi. Okay, I'm gonna give them a second to give a quick intro, but just a simple intro is too boring. So I'm gonna ask them to share at least one very interesting thing about their project that one of you should know, okay? They gotta be really interesting. You gotta be really interesting, Sang. You know that, right? Okay, so let's start with Sang.
Hello, I came here again. I'm Sang, co-founder of Fragmetric, and the one interesting thing I can share is that I already announced through my keynote, but we're gonna launch the first Korean Solana DAT with DFDV.
Okay. Wait. First, Solana DAT in Korea.
Yes.
Okay, that was possible in Korea?
Actually,
I didn't know that.
there's one Bitcoin DAT just launched it.
But
They
Solana one is the
they got
same.
acquired by Metaplanet in Japan and Sora Ventures. So,
Oh,
but there's
okay.
no ETH or Sol.
This is an alpha. This just announced, right? Okay, so we are launching a first Solana DAT in Korea, which is the nation of traders. So we're looking forward to that one. Okay, that was interesting. How about you, Lynn?
That's a lot of pressure on. Shit.
Okay, you gotta make an announcement or something.
Last week we onboarded about 70 million of BTC Fi. So now Saros is the DEX with the most BTC TVL and Solana right now. Yeah. So
Really?
more incoming.
Okay, that is also very interesting and very new to me. So you have 70 million BTC in TVL, and that's the largest in Solana.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot to go through, but let's move on to Sean.
Yeah, my name is Sean, and I'm the co-founder of RateX. RateX is a yield trading protocol building on Solana. I would like to say that one interesting about RateX is that we're also doing something very big. It's even bigger than the current product that we are doing right now. And I think this product will be launched in probably late this month.
Okay, so everyone's doing announcements through this panel right now. This is not a shilling moment, but it is still very interesting. So over to you, Dan.
Yeah, so my name is DK. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at DeFi Development Corp. We were the very first Solana Treasury company in the United States, and as Sang mentioned, we're going to be partnering with Fragmetric to launch DFDV Korea, the very first Solana DAT in Korea.
Okay, Sang already did that, man. Like Sang already touched on that. You can't just do the same thing, man.
Okay, we are also the very first DAT, not named MicroStrategy, to file for a preferred equity offering, which I think is also a pretty big
And
deal.
that's, you guys are in particularly like focused on Solana, right?
Yes, it's a 100% Solana-focused treasury. As I mentioned, we were the first in the United States, and we sort of have a lot of first accolades. You know, first DAT to tokenize its equity on chain, first to file for preferred, first to operate our own validators. So yeah, very excited to work with the Fragmetric team to also be the first to launch a Solana DAT in Korea.
You know what? Actually, yesterday I went to every one of your website, and I went to DFDV's website. I thought it was a Solana website. It was almost like so bullish on Solana. Everything's about Solana. So I was very happy to see a Solana-focused DAT for sure. But can we touch on a little bit on what DAT is for people who are not familiar with DAT? Okay, so who here has ever heard of DAT? DAT?
DATs.
No? See, you got to explain a little more
Yeah,
about
there you
DAT.
go. So a digital asset treasury company is a publicly listed vehicle that acquires a particular crypto asset. That is effectively the, call it core function of the business. And the way I like to think of digital asset treasury companies is think of them as permanent accumulation vehicles. So what that means is if you were to compare buying a DAT versus buying spot or versus buying an ETF, buying spot or buying an ETF of the underlying asset is like sitting on a life raft on a river. And the river's the price action. Wherever the river goes, you end up going. But there's not much you can do if you're just sitting on a life raft without a paddle and not much else to it. A DAT is like a speedboat on a river. So you're subject to the current, you get all the benefits of the current, but it gets you to your destination much, much faster. And as a proof point of that, MicroStrategy over the last 5 years has increased its Bitcoin per share by 5x, which is why it's actually outperformed Bitcoin by roughly 2.5x. In the case of DFDV, we've grown our Solana per share, which is our key metric, by over 90% over the last 3 months. So that should give you a rough sense of how to think about crypto treasury companies, is that you don't just get the benefit of the price action, you actually get the benefit of more accumulation of the asset over time. And in DeFi Dev Corp's case, we can proudly say we're the #1 performing equity among all DATs. I think we're like the #4 or 5 performing equity in the US, period, this year. And we've actually put up the same return as MicroStrategy has over the course of the last 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I have a question. When you say you're launching a DFDV Korea with Fragmetric, does that mean that Korean users can buy DFDV stocks in Korea?
Yes, correct.
Wow. Okay. It's going to be listed in Korean market exchange.
Yeah, so we're gonna acquire the Korea stock market listed company, so that we can start Solana DAT.
Oh. Oh, wow. This was a big news. This was a big news.
We should change the topic to like that.
No. We're going there. We're going there. We're going to Saros. Don't worry, Lynn. So, okay. So you guys have a picture of what these guys are doing. They're all very prominent projects on Solana. But let me ask you in the audience, who has ever used Solana DeFi before? I see the builders. I see the builders.
Not enough people.
But I think there's a little more, room for us to grow, as in Solana DeFi users and how accessible we are to current trading community. So I want to ask you guys, why should users be bullish on Solana DeFi? And how are we different from the other ecosystems like Ethereum?
So actually, Lynn just mentioned that we have to change the topic to DAT, but I think, as you know, Solana's DeFi ecosystem is kind of immature compared to Ethereum, right? But the problem is that people are not familiar with that at the same time. But if we have Solana DATs, so as you know, Solana inflation rate is 4 to 5% at this moment, and all the DATs need to be run their own strategy on Solana so that they can exceed those inflation rate, and so that they can be some competitive company compared to other Solana DATs. So there are 6 Solana DATs in Nasdaq now, and I think DFDV is doing really great, and they understand how the things work. So they're utilizing Fragmetric to generate really great amount of yield, and they make frag sol to PT frag sol, and they put it in Camino, so that they can generate 10% or 11% APY through frag sol. So I think this kind of Solana DAT who really knows how to use DeFi will be the winner of that war. At the same time, this means that if you see Solana DAT, the sum of NAV is more than 3 billion now. And it means that those money will come into Solana DeFi ecosystem, so that bootstrap TVL, yield, and everything. So that's why I'm bullish on Solana DeFi these days.
Interesting. Over to you, Lynn.
We should talk about how we can onboard some of the DAT, like TVL, like Saros too. I think DeFi has a lot to grow within Solana. It's nowhere close to EVM right now. We don't have like a stable swap DEX. There's tons of things we're missing out, but the very strong thing about Solana is that the routing, the aggregator, are so strong. So for example, if people go and then add liquidity to Saros, it's get routed like via Jupiter and things, and then that definitely help with generating a lot of yield for people who add LP. And then we're working on a few tools for active management as well. There's just like so much passive liquidity that we can do a lot with like increasing the yield.
I see. Just one follow-up question. What makes it so that Solana gives out more yield than Ethereum, for example?
I don't think it gives more yield, but in terms of like fee, it's a lot cheaper and also like faster.
Gotcha.
I would like to say we should definitely be bullish on Solana's DeFi development. This simply because Solana is a much better chain than any other competitors, especially like Ethereum. So since you are a high frequency or chain that offers cheaper transaction fees, and the transaction will be completed fast. I would like to say that all the trading activities will happen on this chain. So that makes Solana very unique than any others. But someone will say that the DeFi activity, probably like the borrowing and lending activities on Solana is still still weaker than the activities on Ethereum. I think that's simply because the money, old money, prefers to stay on Ethereum, and Solana is still very young. Since more and more users came to Solana, and the Solana will get the more attention from whales, from institutions, I think this situation will change. So I'm very bullish on Solana.
I see. Just one follow-up again. So you said faster transaction and cheaper transaction is one of the key reason to be bullish on Solana. So I think that is super relevant when it comes to like meme coin trading, for example. Like when you are trading many times a day, right? You have to trade faster. Like you can't wait 5 minutes for a meme coin transaction, right? But then when it comes to key pillars of DeFi, as in lending, borrowing, or yield, do you think that cheaper and faster transactions still matter?
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good question. Just like Vitalik said, I think it was yesterday. So that's why the borrowing and lending does not really happen on Solana at this time. But I think things will change simply because the trading is probably the most important or most efficient the usage of blockchain. So once it attracts users on Solana, I think the borrowing and lending, such kind of DeFi activities will also grow.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, from my seat, mostly engaging with traditional finance investors and institutions, we often get this exact question, why Solana DeFi versus other ecosystems? And I usually give an anecdote, which is just the first time I ever did a swap on chain, Solana DeFi kind of felt exactly the way I wanted Ethereum DeFi to feel, except it never actually felt that way. So I tell a lot of institutional folks, just go and take a few hours out of your day, download a wallet, go and actually play with the ecosystem, compare it to what's out there already, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And when you get that sort of tangible effect, I don't know, it's sort of like the difference between I've said Ethereum is the BlackBerry and Solana is the iPhone, and you can really feel that difference. A lot of the, I would say the pushback we get too when comparing the different DeFi ecosystems as well, Ethereum's got 7x the TVL of Solana from a DeFi perspective, so how can you be so bullish on Sol? And again, the analogy I really give to folks is if you rewound the clock back to 1999, Amazon.com had $1.6 billion in revenue, and Walmart was roughly 100x that. And if you had made the argument back then that Walmart was 100x the size of Amazon, therefore it's a better investment, you would have gotten your face completely ripped off going long Walmart and short Amazon. Similarly, I don't view Ethereum having 7x the TVL of Solana as this indicator that one ecosystem's clearly very far away. In fact, 7x the TVL is going to do nothing to stop the faster, cheaper chain.
I think I'm bought in. I think it makes sense. Yeah. Solana is an iPhone, guys. You're not the BlackBerry. That's the analogy I'm going with now. And I do agree because, come to think of it, in my iPhone, all the apps that I have in my home screen, they're all Solana apps. I don't know why, but it just happens to be like that, right?
Bullish.
I'm bullish, yeah. Moving on to our next question. So, what are some of the trends, like going forward, probably next year or next year, that you guys see coming? So let's say from last year till the middle of this year, it was meme coin, for example. Huge craze on meme coin. Right now, DAT is obviously a buzzword, ICM, but what are the things that people should be expecting forward?
I'll start with that one. Not to say that this is a brand new thing you're going to hear me saying, but I think tokenization of equities is something that is top of mind for me. And again, explaining this to mostly TradFi folks who are trying to understand some of the benefits, I try to explain to them, like, imagine if you could take your Apple certificates and your Charles Schwab account and withdraw them, and they'll go, post them as collateral on a particular, to go borrow and lend against, for example. And imagine you could trade that 24/7, 365, and then they kind of turn their heads a little bit and they're like, that's a cool concept. They said, well, now tokenize that and imagine the costs are de minimis. You can basically do all this stuff instantaneously. There's like real composability behind this stuff. And imagine being able to do perps on Meta or perps on Microsoft and stuff like that, and just increasing the accessibility of the financial system overall. It's, for me, probably one of the more exciting things to look forward to.
I would like to say probably the crypto native tokens should be the first priority. Solana is definitely an ecosystem that grows with memes. I'm not saying that memes is very important to Solana, but we should never forget about it. I would like to say probably the next meme coin on Solana will be the creator token, the creator tokens, and that's crypto native. I would like to say our industry, the crypto industry, is not big enough to attract the traditional people to this economy at this time. So I think we should just have more crypto native tokens and attract more and more users come to this industry. And this is I think this is the first priority. The second priority is we should definitely attract those stocks, bonds, or the financial instruments come to Solana. And I think this is probably the final destination. And but right now, I don't think the DeFi infrastructure on Solana is ready for the stock trading or stock perps trading. I think the whole DeFi infra should still need to make some progress to feed the market requirements of stock trading, bonds trading, something like this, even derivatives.
Oh, I'm curious, what do you think are those things left to do for the DeFi to really fully embrace the stock trading on-chain?
I personally, if you look at the spot trading infras on Solana, they are basically AMM, but the efficiency of AMM is quite low compared to the order book. But if you're a trader or institution in TradeFi, and you always use order books. So I think if you have already used you just try to trade the X stocks on Jupiter or on the AMM, you will find that the slippage is very high. It's very, very high compared to the order book driven marketplaces. So I would like to say probably we should have a on-chain order book to fit the requirements of on-chain stock trading.
Interesting.
Talking about trend, I do still think it's going to be the DAT of the world, and also more real-world asset. I do think that's the trend to go. For Saros, we're betting on a few things. We think there's still a lot of idling BTC sitting there, and then our job is to bring in more BTC wrappers, BTC volume into Solana, and make sure it's put into good use.
So the question was what I expect forward, right? So I think we're in the year of mass adoption that we've been waiting for a few years. So great example is costs, in my opinion, because I've never expect to pay something in crypto cards. It's really like weird to see actually, because I've never thought about it. So also the X stocks is really great example because they tokenized the Nasdaq market stock in Solana so that people can trade stocks on Solana whenever they want, even the market is closed. So what I'm expecting is that my mom can buy Tesla on Solana without she knows. So she can open the phone and click the app and just buy and off her money is just went to Solana immediately and just buy X stocks like Nvidia or something like really easily. And she doesn't even know she's using crypto. So I'm really looking forward to that kind of things.
Also, no brokerage account.
Well, come to think of it, I do think that we are coming close to that point. But then I want to ask you, like, why do you think your mom would trade Tesla on Solana rather than on her usual trading app?
So actually, I think the question is wrong because she doesn't even know she's using Solana. She's just using trading app which is running 24 hours. So even Nasdaq is closed, she can buy in Korean time. So all the US stock traders in Korea, they have to up all night to trade things, but they don't have to if they trade on Solana.
Yeah, I want to underscore this too, because one of the top questions we get from investors is like, well, when is Solana going to have its moment where it's all over the news, right? Where all anyone can talk about is Solana. What I try to tell people is that Solana is an inevitability, but it's an inevitability that is going to almost happen invisibly. Like before we know it, all this stuff is just going to be the backbone of all of global value transfer. So it's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and suddenly, it's all that everyone's grandmother will be talking about. But imagine you are a video game publisher today. You're running on legacy traditional finance rails. You're paying a 30% tax to Sony or to Microsoft. And you can run things that way in isolated ecosystems. Or you can pay 0% at basically the speed of light to run all this stuff on Solana rails. You don't have to pay this egregious tax to these publishers anymore. That to me feels like an inevitability in the future and feels like there are almost like new business models that'll be unlocked. I use video game microtransactions as an example just because it's near and dear to my heart. But that's kind of the dynamic that I think you're referring to here, is that it's not going to be very in your face, but it will certainly look and feel better, and from a business standpoint, it will certainly be the better choice.
This is very spot on, I think. Especially, I see many of my friends staying up all night to trade on the US market. This is ridiculous, right? Now they can trade these stocks on Solana 24/7 with the fee pretty much cheaper than their actual fees on the other exchanges. And if they put in money, they will probably earn yield, like, I don't know, 13%, 10% at least. So we can see all these benefits coming because it's on-chain, because it's on Solana. Yeah.
I think here comes DeFi again, because if they trade stocks on Solana, it'll be DeFi. They should use Jupiter, Titan, or whatever aggregator or DEXs to trade those stocks. So, like, as the mass adoption is coming to us, I think DeFi will grow inevitably.
Although there's one thing I need to add is gonna be liquidity, and then like you mentioned, low liquidity, a lot of slippage. So
Sure. But if just my imagination, but if the product's super nice and there is a reason for people to come in and use it, and we open up the liquidity to everyone, right? That's the core mentality of crypto. So people are putting in extra stable coins to earn yield and provide liquidity and get revenue share from that trading venue. So yeah, this is a really interesting thing. Yeah. I think we are actually leading to up to the core of internet capital markets. We somehow, kind of went into that. So you guys probably heard of internet capital markets. It is a huge buzzword, something that Solana really underscores right now. But we're not we're not that familiar with the concept. So why don't we make it to the layman's term, as if you were explaining that to the 5-year-old. What is internet capital markets?
You can trade everything on Solana, even your toys.
Okay. You can trade everything on Solana, even your toys. Okay, that is a good analogy for the 5-year-old, I think. Yeah.
I don't have a better one.
Well, you can actually do a 10-year-old then.
Well, we can go back to the gaming thing, right? So everyone, when they play, they can earn something, but then they would just earn it directly into their wallet without a wallet concept. To me, that's internet capital market.
Exactly. I 100%. Yeah.
From my point of view, I think the introduction of internet capital market is simply Solana is just trying to bring the financial instrument products on chain, and that's it. But I would like to say that probably those RWAs, different kinds of very interesting stuff. If those RWAs can be on chain, that's also very good news. But for the the internet capital market, I simply treat it as a market for financial instruments.
Great.
I would say internet capital markets. I'm going to steal a phrase from one of our investors, Keishan Shah. He used this phrase, everything, everywhere, all at once. So to add what you had mentioned, trading, everything, everywhere, all at once is probably the way I would describe internet capital markets. But I'll add one thing, which is I actually really hate the term internet capital markets. I might be one of the few people in Solana.
It's so overused.
I do not like the term.
Confession
And I'll
to
tell
make.
you why I don't like the term. Because any conversation I have with a traditional finance investor, when I tell them Solana is internet capital markets, they look at me like I've got 3 heads. They're like, what the hell does that even mean? And I think there's 2 problems with it. One is it is overused, but the second is people hone in on the capital markets component of that phrase, and I think that's actually a really limiting thing for what Solana is, right? So phrases that I've used that have actually helped traditional finance investors understand what Solana is and what it could be is Solana is consumer grade crypto. It's there, it's in your pocket, it's ready to go, it's fast, it's cheap. You know, the TPS of Visa, transaction finality at the speed of light. Another one that certainly resonated with folks is if stable coins are the ChatGPT of crypto, then Solana is NVIDIA. And then all of a sudden the gears start turning in people's heads. They're like, oh, okay, I get this. This is infrastructure. But if you start at that point, if you start with Solana is the network or Solana's infrastructure or Solana's internet capital markets, you almost confuse people right away. And the last one that I really use that I think helps folks understand maybe the differences between this and something like Bitcoin, because believe it or not, a lot of traditional finance investors don't understand the difference between Solana and Bitcoin, is you've probably heard Michael Saylor use the phrase that Bitcoin is the apex asset, right? There's this great rant where he goes, Bitcoin's the apex asset. It's better than gold, it's better than cheese, it's better than oil. And what I've told people is if Bitcoin is the apex asset, then Solana is apex fuel for all of global value transfer. All right, Solana is apex fuel for every bit of global value transfer that'll ever happen.
Oh, Dan, can you share that to our group chat or something? Like, I want that noted down. I want to use those analogies like elsewhere. These are really great, like super, super amazing, actually. And I do agree, although I can't repeat that, but I do agree. And Solana does really hit different from Bitcoin or anything else. So now we are becoming the NVIDIA of NVIDIA equivalent, yeah. Okay, so moving on to a little deeper into at internet capital markets. So you guys are building DeFi, right? So help me understand, how does what you guys do as a project bring forward the vision of internet capital markets? How does that relate?
I'll start. Maybe I'll go back to the everything, everywhere, all at once, because I think DATs are very uniquely positioned in the sense that they can actually deploy their treasury on-chain. So it's something that we've been doing since day one. We have roughly 10% of our treasury deployed on-chain. And when I talk about everything, everywhere, all at once, I mean really trying to build the bridge between DeFi and TradFi. One of our slogans very early on was the idea of bringing TradFi capital into DeFi and DeFi returns and innovation into TradFi. So a very clear, I would say, example of this is we have a liquid staking token issued in partnership with Sanctum, DFDV Sol. And what we are able to do is we mint DFDV Sol, and then we're able to go to the various borrow-lend protocols on Solana, like Camino, and we can borrow Sol against DFDV Sol, and call it borrowing around like 6 to 7%. And then we can stake to our own validators, because we own our own validator infrastructure. And because we are able to, because we own our validator infrastructure, we don't have to pay a third party a fee. So we're netting, call it like, I don't know, 10% average organic yield on our own validators. So we earn, let's call it like a 2% net interest margin on that strategy. And we basically do this looping staking strategy over and over again, because we can take the yield from that and mint more DFDV Sol. And I think like the all-in yield on just doing this with one Sol is somewhere around 12%. That benefit right there is directly accretive to Sol per share, which is directly accretive to the common equity holders of DeFi Development Corp. And that is like a really good example of us not only supporting the broader Solana ecosystem through this strategy, but actually leveraging on-chain internet capital markets to drive value for our shareholders. And that's really the connective tissue between on-chain and TradFi that I think has been missing across the space for quite some time, and that I think DATs have almost a moral obligation to really lean into.
Actually, not many people just know that RateX was not initially designed for the yield splitting, which is like a Pendle-like product on Solana. RateX was initially designed for the extremely efficient interest rate swap-like product. So I think many of you guys should have known that the interest rate swap is probably the largest, the major derivatives in TradeFi. So we will just try to bring this kind of financial instrument on Solana. But I think it was last year when we launched our margin yield trading product, which is the interest rate swap like product. Not many people are just interested in it. Some people just they are probably interested in speculating the future yields of JLP, which is because JLP offers a high and very volatile future return. But except that, not many people are just interested in the margin yield trading like product. So we changed to the points farming, the yield splitting kind of thing, just like the collaboration with Fragmetric. But I would like to say if Solana is gonna become an internet capital market, the interest rate swap like product is probably one of the most important product in this ecosystem. So I would like to say the RateX here is we can provide such a kind of product to let the users speculate or hedge the future value of any rates or yields, something like this.
For me, contribution to internet capital market again could mean a billion things. For me, it's about increasing the usage of like Solana as like an infrastructure, like a backbone, and also like increasing TVL. So what we do is that we build a platform where people can like add LP easily, where if you're sitting on like, for example, stablecoin or meme coin, you can add LP and earn yield, and then it's get routed through like different aggregator like DFlow, Jupiter, and then that's how you earn yield. And then go back to like the cheap gas and fast transaction. Those are the two main elements that like contribute to velocity of trading. So the faster it is, the cheaper it is, the more trading that will happen. So yeah, and like going back to the XOX example, we want to onboard more of like the XOX of the world, the RWA of the world. We're also interested in working on bringing in token from different chains into Solana and make it like the place for people to trade easier and without like having to go to different chains.
Yeah, so for the term internet capital market, I think it's like connecting TradFi or like RWA things with Solana, but those things need really great infrastructure. So Solana needs to work well. So I think what Fragmetric is doing is scale Solana in horizontal way because we are supporting lots of networks which take Solana because we are restaking protocol. So we are securing the Jiro's tip router, which is the core backbone of the Jiro's MEV infrastructure these days. And we also support Switchboard, which is Oracle, which is used by lots of DeFi protocols on Solana. So that's why we named our community's name Sang. It's my name, but Solana Network Guard, so that you guys can like secure all other Solana's infrastructure in future.
Amazing, amazing. I don't even know how the time has passed so much. I think it closes our panel. Round of applause for our amazing leaders of our Solana DeFi for this panel.